and it is cold outside. We gather around the fireplace, and no one cares about yesterday. My favorite holiday, it means so much more than words can say. And I claim that Christmas is a magic day.
What's going on, everybody? This is Justin with me, myself, and Dyson. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. We do video playthroughs of solo board games and other board game related content to help you figure out what games are right for you. We have reached the benchmark of 1,000 subscribers, and we are so excited. We have special videos coming up going all the way into 2022 to celebrate this, and we have some giveaways along with the channel update coming. So if you haven't joined our community, think about hitting that subscribe button and definitely hit that bell icon so that you're notified when some of these videos go live. Today we are doing our 2021 holiday gift giving guide. I am doing games that are not on last year's guide, so if you're interested in looking at that, those are still very viable game picks. I'll put a link up in the proper corner. Also, if I mention a game and we have a video playthrough of the game, I will put that link up there as well. But today we've got some games that I think are awesome games, and hopefully in this list you'll find something that you or your loved one will like and that will fit their needs, whether they're just getting into board games or solo board games or have been doing it for a long time. I think there's something here for everyone. Our first category on the list is going to be our small games. We're going to start at small stocking stuffers and go up to the bigger games. So the first game I'm going to pick is actually two games, and you can't go wrong with either one of them. They are Sprawlopolis and Agropolis. If you've watched our channel before, you know I'm not that huge into small micro games, but these are games that pack a lot of punch in just a very few cards. In this game, you are building up your town or city using cards that have districts on them in a grid along with various configurations of roads. And you're putting out 3 cards randomly each game that have your scoring objectives on them. So you have your basic scoring, and then you have these objectives you have to meet. You are overlapping cards and putting cards together, trying to build up whatever combination you need to score the most points. These are fantastic games. I really just get a kick out of them every time, and they are always in my go bag. I really don't think you can go wrong with these, Sprawlopolis or Agropolis. The next game on the list for a stocking stuffer is another micro game. It is 18 cards, you only play with 9 each time, and you're overlapping cards, again, sort of like Sprawlopolis. But this time you're building up your orchard. In this game you have some dice, and as you overlap cards of your orchard, you have different colors. As you overlap them, you will put a die on them, and if a die is already there and you overlap that same color again, you bump that die up. So it'll go from 1 to 3, and from 3 to 6, and then from 6 to 10. And at the end, you take all of your dice and you add up the score. So you're trying to figure out this puzzle with only 2 cards in your hand at a time. How can I best match up the most things and get the highest number of points? It sounds very simple, and it is. I taught it to my 6th grade daughter in about 5 minutes, and she really enjoyed it. Solo only game, but a lot of good choices, especially those last couple cards. You're trying to maximize your points and bump up as many dice as possible. It's just a great game. Orchard, can't suggest this highly enough. The next set of games on our list are going to be the lighter fare games, the ones that you can play in a relatively short amount of time in a small space. And the first one is going to be Trois Dice. We have an actual play along video with this, so you can try it out. Trois Dice, you are drafting dice off of a rondelle, off of a circle, and you're marking districts off and buildings off on your player sheet. What is awesome about this game is you can build up some super cool combinations as you go. You can just really boost up the amount of things that you're collecting and the resources that you get so that you can get bigger and better stuff. So the combo feeling in this is just very satisfying. The engine building in this is very satisfying. But the 2 kickers to this game that make it special are that, one, after the second round, each round you're going to have 1 area that is destroyed if you haven't built into it already. So there's this sense of tension of, oh, I've got to prioritize what I'm doing before it gets destroyed. And The second kicker is that you can build up all these cool combinations in your 3 rows and try to maximize all this scoring and really just get a lot going. But you have to trigger the scoring by building your cathedrals. So check out our video. This may be something that you enjoy. Trois Dice. The next one is a newer game, one that I haven't had very long, but have already fallen in love with, and that is Cascadia. Now, I love nature and I love nature themes in games. And Cascadia is building up habitats, collecting animals, and in kind of a Carcassonne tile laying feel, you're building up your habitats, trying to group things together to get points. But on the side, you have these cards for each type of animal, and they change each game, so your scoring conditions are going to change, and you're trying to build those up. It's beautiful. It doesn't take long to play. So that is Cascadia, and I think that's going to be one of the hot ones this year. The next game is a game that I think is going to be on a lot of people's wish list this year if they don't already have it. It's one that we've done on the channel, and that is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. The reason I like this so much, and I think that this is a great game for people who maybe are new to solo gaming as well, but it's got a lot of depth and some good crunchiness to it, is because it takes everything good about Terraforming Mars and it adds the action selection or phase selection of Race for the Galaxy, which is one of my favorite games, multiplayer of all time. And the combination of those two games, two mechanisms into this game really just fit like a glove. You are playing cards, you are building those combos up, you're building up your engine, you're trying to terraform all of Mars by yourself, which is a challenge in and of itself. And then you have this AI, simple AI, where they have the phase cards that you have, and you want to try not to pick the same ones that they do. Because if they pick phase 2 and you pick phase 3, then you get to do both of them. But if you both pick phase 3, then only one phase is going to happen and you're not going to get as much done. This is just a great game, and I think a lot of people are going to make this the top of their wish list, and maybe a lot of people's top game for this year, and that is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. The last game in our medium list, starting to go into a little bit heavier, is a game that I think a lot of people are just going to pass up because of the theme, and that is Genotype. Genotype is a beautiful game about Mendelian genetics, and that may not seem like a cool theme, but it's so refreshing, it's so different. And the mechanism that's so great in here, you're using dice drafting, and this has been a good year for dice drafting. You're drafting dice so you can observe and research the different traits on the pea plants, but you can take that Punnett square mechanism and you can change the odds on it. And that is fantastic. It is a great little mechanism. The dice drafting it's really kind of unique. And I really enjoy the feel of this one. You're also getting some helpers, and you're expanding your shed. So there's traditional Euro feel to this, but the AI in it is cheats like crazy, scores really good and really well, takes things from you. There's limited spots, and just does a lot of really awesome things in this game. I think this is a sleeper hit. This is Genotype. If you haven't checked it out, we're going to have this on the channel. This is going to be one that I think a lot of people will enjoy if they check it out. So, Genotype. Going into our heavier games list, I think we're going to start with another game that's going to be on a lot of people's wish list this year if they haven't already got it. And that is a mixture of deck building and worker placement with an Indiana Jones theme, and that is Lost Ruins of Arnak. I'm eagerly waiting the expansion. This game has two sides of the board. You're building up your deck. It's got some unique deck building elements. It's not just doing the same old thing. And you've got this worker placement aspect and moving up the board into bigger and bigger spaces, getting bigger and bigger treasures, researching more and more things. It is just a phenomenal game that really just hits all of the sweet spots for me. I love this game. I haven't played it enough, and I've played it a lot. The AI in it is really challenging. There are different difficulty levels, and you can even download more. I think there's an online app, if I'm not mistaken. Plus the expansion again is going to be coming out, and I think that's just going to add a lot more replayability to an already highly replayable game. This artwork is gorgeous. The components are fantastic. I think that there's just so much good in this game. We do have a playthrough on the channel of this, so definitely check out Lost Ruins of Arnak. I think that this is one that many people will love this year. Another game that I really want to point out that I discovered not until this year, but it's not a 2021 game necessarily, with a unique theme, is Obsession. I am not a Downton Abbey fan or Bridgerton or any of that stuff, but I have to say, this game really captures what it set out to capture. And I get engrossed with the theme of this game because the mechanisms and mechanics of this game are so intertwined with the theme that it feels like you are building up your estate and your reputation in this era of England, and it just really shines. You are choosing each time to put on something. Maybe you're hosting tea on the veranda, or you are doing bowls on the lawn, and you are inviting your guests out of your hand, which are represented by cards, and they're going to give you money or different prestige, things like that. And you're continually building up your estate so that you can put on more grandiose events, and it's just really satisfying. You look back at the end of the game and the tiles that you've built up go in columns, and it really just looks like you have built up your estate. It really just captures the feel of that era, and the theme comes across, and you can easily get lost in it even if you're not interested in it. So just a refreshing theme, something that feels good and different. This is creeping up into my top games of all time. Where it falls, I don't know. We're working on that top 10 list going forward, so definitely stay tuned for that. The next game is another big game, and this is one that people love or they don't like. But if you like exploration games and games where you're putting pieces of a story together with a storybook that has little snippets where you're looking up reference numbers, and if you like gorgeous art, Sleeping Gods has been just a gem for me this year. I enjoy playing it. I enjoy getting lost in the world. Ryan Laukatt's art is gorgeous as always and evocative, and you're playing on this book that's a map, and as you move to different sections, you'll turn the pages, but you have this ship that just sails around the map, and you're looking at the art, and there's little numbers beside different spaces, and the art is what draws you in. You're like, oh, that's a Skull Island. I wonder what's there. Is it going to be bad? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be treasure? It's really just fun. The story it's okay. The combat is very interesting. It's a puzzle style combat, really neat. At its heart, it's an explorative Euro game because you're managing a lot of resources and a lot of characters, and that's one of the downsides of it. You have to manage I believe it's 7 or 8 characters, even playing solo, but it's not that terrible. Once you get used to it, you start to realize what they are, and you remember it, and you just kind of get lost in the world. And that's what makes this game so great, is that you can just get lost in it. Now, it does take up a ton of table space. If you like Ryan Laukatt's style of games, if you like his artwork, you know what you're getting into, but this is the closest to an open world video game in a board game format that I've ever seen, and that is an experience in and of itself. So I think this is going to be high on a lot of people's wish list this year. That is Sleeping Gods. Let's go into another thematic game with a big exploration element in it, and this is a game that I didn't play until this year, but it's not new for this year, and that is Shadows of Kilforth or Gloom of Kilforth. I believe Shadows is easier to find. Shadows of Kilforth is a game where you are exploring this world set out by cards. The world is decaying, and you're exploring these different cards and building up your character. If you like that kind of open world exploration feel with a time crunch on it, building up so that you can face the final boss, this is just a phenomenal game. You are writing your own story. And there is a great place in my heart for those kind of games because I like the imaginative game of this is my character. Let's write this story together. Let's see what the dice do. Let's see what the cards throw at me. It's just a fantastic game. The artwork is phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about Tristan's games. Tristan Hodges has really just wowed me with everything that I've played of his. This is a game that I know is popular in the solo community, but I still don't hear enough people talking about it, and it's a game that should be talked about. If you like those kind of exploration, dice chucking, battling, building up your character kind of games, we'll call it an RPG light or RPG in a board game form kind of game, this is one you definitely want to check out. I think you will enjoy it, and that is Shadows or Gloom of Killforth. Probably my biggest brain burnery Euro game on this list is going to be a game that I am even surprised that I love as much as I do, and that is Bonfire. Now, Stefan Feld, I respect his games and his designs, and I like them, but they've just never really fallen into the love category with me. Bonfire, I don't know, it just checks so many boxes. This game, out of any game on my list, is the hardest to succinctly explain. It is, you're moving around, traveling. It's got like that traveling mechanic that you see in some of the newer, more modern Euro games, where you're traveling, your ship's traveling to islands to gather resources. You have the rondel mechanic of the bonfire. The bonfire turns, and you're trying to manipulate when and how that turns. On your player board, you are building a path, but you also have this smaller area where you're putting down little tiles in a grid and trying to combo those together too. So there's a little bit of tile placement in it. Again, all of that sounds like a mess when I explain it, but Stefan Feld just interweaves those and knits those together into a phenomenal game. One that's creeping up on my list. And I couldn't not suggest this. If you like traditional Euros, if you like big brain burnery games, if you love Stefan Feld, this is definitely a game you should check out. But I think even those that Stefan Feld fell flat for, that was a lot of F's. If Stefan Feld has fell flat for you, this is still a game that you may enjoy. So definitely check this one out, Bonfire. Sticking with our Euro games, I have to put this on the list. This is not a new game, but it has a new edition, and it is Great Western Trail 2nd Edition. Great Western Trail is one of my favorite multiplayer games. I love this game so much. And when the 2nd edition came out, it included the solo mode. Yes, it has changed the art. Yes, it has upgraded the components. But really, I suggest it because that solo mode is built in. You don't have to print and play the fan variants. One of them is just built straight in, and it is fantastic. There are some balance tweaks in the game that are subtle, but really, I think make a big difference. I really have enjoyed the new version what couple times I've played it. But having that experience with the solo print and play in the old version is just enough for me to say, if you have not checked out Great Western Trail and you like Euro games, this is a really good one. It's got a deck building mechanic in it where you're delivering cows so that they can go to Kansas City, and your cowboy is taking them up the board, up the trail, and then you'll deliver your cows, which is your hand of cards, and then you come back down and you start all over again. But each time you start that trail and go through that trail, you have built buildings, your opponent has built buildings, the trail changes. And it allows you to make your deck better and better each time you go. So you really are trying to get through it as much as possible in a game. It is really fantastic, it's really satisfying. And I know this one is one that I want to play on the channel. And that is Great Western Trail 2nd Edition. The next to last game on my list is another Euro game, and it is a point salad of a game, but it is one that I have really enjoyed. We have a playthrough on the channel of it, Circadian's First Light. This is a dice placement game where you're rolling your dice, and your dice are pretty much workers, and their value determines where you can go and what benefits you get. And what's cool about this is it's not just the higher dice get the best benefits. There are certain places where you want lower dice or you want a pair of dice. So there's just so many cool things about this game. The AI in it is brutal. The AI takes your spots. Always, you have to have a plan A, B, and C each turn. And it really does get that multiplayer feel across. Because in multiplayer, you're actually rolling your dice behind the screen and making your choices behind the screen and then revealing it. And then it's that, oh no, factor of watching someone else take what your plan is and you having to scramble for your plan B. The AI does that because they get to go first and they cheat. And you are trying to build up your engine as much as possible, but also delay or steal spaces from the AI so that they just don't totally run over you. Again, we have a playthrough on the channel. It's a great game. I believe there's a second edition coming out, but you can easily find the first edition, and it's not a very expensive game in comparison to a lot of other games that would take up a whole table, and this one does take up a lot of table space. So Circadian's First Light, great theme, great mechanics. Check this one out. I think you'll enjoy it. And the final game on this list would be the one game, if I had to pick one off the list, that I would suggest to the majority of people. If you like card games, if you like card combos, if you like deck building, if you like card drafting, if you like asymmetrical powers, this game is actually two games, or two boxes at least, but I got both and just put them all together, and that is Imperium Classics or Imperium Legends. Either one is fine, you can't go wrong with either one, but you start off with a pack of cards that represent your civilization. And in this game, you are deck building your civilization, both from a common row of cards that come out and from your own unique card pile. You unlock cards as you go along, and it is just so satisfying. Each civilization has a different way that it plays, and each civilization feels very different than the other. In fact, it takes usually 2 to 5 games to learn a civilization, and some are more complex than others. But what's neat is that the way they've done the AI, now this is a fantastic multiplayer game, but the way they've done the AI, each AI has a chart with it for that civilization that you're playing against that makes each civilization act as it would in a actual person's hands. And that is so satisfying. So the combinations are just so vast. Honestly, I don't think you can go wrong with this game if you like that kind of deck building card combo. If you like Imperial Settlers or Empires of the North, that asymmetrical, having your own empire and building that up, tableau building is another thing that's in this game. If you like those things, I think you're going to love this game. I think this is going to be at a lot of solo people's top games of the year list. And you know what? I think I can go ahead and say that I think you'll see this on maybe 1 or 2 other top 10 lists that will be coming out shortly. And that's my holiday gift giving guide for 2021. It was so hard to pare this list down into something manageable. There are so many great games that I've discovered this year. There's so many great games that I didn't get to mention, and there are games from last year that are on last year's holiday list. Again, that's another great list to check out. But let me know in the comments below, what game did you like off this list? What game interests you? What game do you think you might be picking up for yourself or for a loved one? And what did I miss? What's a game that you would put on this list that I just didn't put on there? Maybe I haven't played it yet. Maybe that will help me prioritize what I may want to get starting to play into 2022. What have I missed? Let me know in the comments down below. Lastly, I just want to say thank you so much again to this wonderful community. It has been just a fantastic journey so far, and I can't wait to see where we go from here. Here's to 1,000 subscribers and 1,000 more as we continue to grow and share the love of board gaming and solo games with each other. I wish you all the happiest of holidays, and I can't wait to see what 2022 holds for us. But until next time, thanks for watching and happy gaming. Doesn't matter, it's Christmas in my heart.